If you have watched any of my other courses, you already know that I like to give a safety announcement before I talk about circuit diagrams, and this course is no exception. So as always, please make sure all power sources are unplugged before wiring anything up. Also, if you're not using the exact same components I'm using in this course, make sure you understand how to work with them and connect them properly before proceeding. Electricity is a fickle beast and can do a number on you if you're not careful. Not trying to scare you or anything if you're new to this scene, but just want to simply caution you before diving right in. If you don't feel comfortable wiring up the circuits, then please seek out someone who is, or proceed through the rest of the demos without the circuitry. You can still write the code and follow along, you just won't be able to see the output of your work without the circuit. Alright, now with that obligatory statement out of the way, let's check out the circuit for this course. Looks a little busy, doesn't it? I think the jumpers make the diagram a little more intimidating than it actually is, so let's clear those out and add them back in one at a time. Now ultimately, the goal is to switch the red and green LEDs on and off using a relay. The Arduino will be responsible for supplying power to the relay and both of the LEDs, as well as sending a signal to the input pin on the relay to tell it to toggle each of the LEDs on and off. Since the relay requires a 5-volt source to operate, we'll start with wiring a jumper up to the 5-volt pin on the Arduino, as well as the VCC pin on the relay. Each of the components will need to be tied to a ground pin, but rather than wiring each one up to individual pins, I will simply tie a ground pin on the Arduino to the ground bus on the breadboard so that all components can hook into it. Next, I'll tie the ground pin on the relay module to the ground bus on the breadboard to complete its circuit. Since the 5-volt power source on the relay is only used for switching circuits, I need a separate power source to actually turn on the LEDs. Since the LEDs don't require a lot of power, I will just use the 3.3 volt pin on the Arduino to power them. If you recall from the discussion in the last lesson on the COM, NO, and NC terminals, I mentioned that the COM terminal serves as an input source for both the NO and NC terminals. That being the case, I will be wiring the 3.3 volt pin on the Arduino up to the COM terminal on the relay to source both circuits. Now you really can just tie the 3.3 volt pin to the COM terminal directly, especially since there aren't any other components in this diagram that will need to be powered by this pin. However, due to the size of the jumpers and pre-cut wires I had lying around, it was easier for me to connect the 3.3 volt pin to the power bus on the breadboard, and then use a small wire to connect the power bus to the COM terminal on the relay, but again, you can wire the 3.3 volt pin directly to the COM terminal if you prefer. Alright, now the red LED will be controlled by the NC circuit on the relay, since again, the circuit is closed by default, and essentially indicates that the relay is off, so to speak. So I need to hook a wire up to the NC terminal on the relay, and to the terminal strip on the breadboard where the A node of the LED is plugged in. And then, as you can see, I already have a 220 ohm resistor in place to tie the LED into the ground bus to complete its circuit. The next step is to hook the green LED up to the NO circuit, so that when the relay is switched on, the green LED lights up and the red LED turns off. So I need to wire the NO terminal on the relay up to the terminal strip on the breadboard where the A node of the green LED is plugged in. And just like with the red LED, I already have a 220 ohm resistor in place to tie the green LED into the ground bus to complete its circuit. Now that all of the components have power and ground connections, the final step is to tie a digital pin on the Arduino to the input pin on the relay, which will send the appropriate signals to the relay module, telling it to open and close the NO and NC circuits. You can use whichever digital pin you would like for this, but I just arbitrarily chose pin number 12, so I will hook a jumper from that pin on the Arduino to the input 1 pin on the relay, which corresponds to the channel to which I have wired up the LEDs. I will not be using channel 2 on my relay in this course, so you can certainly get by with a single channel relay for the upcoming demos if that's what you're rocking. And once you have your circuit built, I will meet you in the next lesson to show you what you need to do to configure an Arduino for use with a relay.